welcome to week 8 of Trash Talkin.
I'm Reg.
I'm Ian. After an absence, a 1-week absence, we're on the heels of the best day in the sports universe, in my opinion. It's better than the first week of the NFL, which is saying a lot for me. It's better than the start of March Madness, which we just had. Opening day is tomorrow. We'll have a lot of baseball to talk about.
And the Oakland A's are already mathematically eliminated.
It didn't take too long.
Sorry, guys.
Red Sox, maybe.
No, we'll be there. And like always, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have given us a lot of stuff to talk about, even in the offseason. In an offseason where they have done nothing and they have been the least big spenders. We're still being talked about. We're the least big spenders. We've spent $11 million this offseason. That is the least of any team. We are still producing headlines because of our quarterback and our owner.
Well, I heard that they just signed one of the former Miami Dolphin cheerleaders, so they got one cheerleader this offseason. I don't know if that's going to help with me, but it was big news. Jerry came out and said he was going all in with the cheerleader.
Now we have a cheerleader, a washed-up linebacker, and a long snapper.
We got long snapper.
We've done really well. So we're going to start talking about the Cowboys. Seems like the only thing we've really been able to talk about this offseason is Dak Prescott and the contract coming up. And there have been conflicting reports because when we talked about this, doing this topic yesterday, it was that Jerry Jones is fine going forward without offering a contract. And then today the report is that while there have been no offers, Jerry Jones completely intends to sign Dak Prescott. We heard that in 2019, and it didn't happen until 2021. So the Cowboys are prepared, apparently, to go forward without Dak past 2025. Do you think this is a good idea or not?
This is a great business idea. I mean, if you look at him, you give him one more year. He has the same team he's had for the last 5 years. If you can't get over the hump this year, what is the purpose of giving this guy $55 million and getting 11 wins and bowing out in the playoffs when you got Diggs to pay, you got Micah Parsons, and you got CeeDee Lamb? And those guys are all going to get about 18 to 20 million a year. I would rather pay those three guys more that money than pay Dak Prescott the same money you got to pay those guys.
Somebody's got to give him the ball.
My idea would be, I think Trey Lance, you give him a year under this offense, you give him a year of watching and seeing. I think you go with him. And you know what? Maybe you trade Dak in the offseason next year. Maybe somebody will give you a decent pick. Or you trade up and draft somebody the following year. But I think he has had more time to show what he is. I know he's a really good quarterback, but to pay him that much money and get the same results doesn't make sense. And maybe they'll go in the offseason and get somebody the following year. But he's had too much time. They have too much talent on that team that they're going to have to pay. They might have to go get a running back down in the future. So to me, that's a great business idea. I think Jerry's finally caught on. If you get rid of him and you get rid of McCarthy and start over next year, if it all doesn't go, I mean, if they get to the NFC Championship, then yeah, maybe you got to pay him. Super Bowl, obviously you got to pay him. I mean, he had a great year last year. If you can, duplicate that again, which I think might be a little harder with the offensive line that he has, but with the weapons he has, it shouldn't be. But I think that's the best idea for Jerry Jones to do, and I think that's half the reason why he went and got Trey Lance last year. It was just in case. He saw this coming down the line, and he doesn't like losing to somebody in business, which he's losing to Dak because Dak's got him right where he wants him.
He already lost him in 2021 too.
Yeah, so I
beat
mean,
him.
He could have paid him years ago and saved money, but unfortunately, it looks bad on him. But to me, Dak's got one more year, and that's it. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I always hear like tales from older Cowboy fans and from people in the media how tough Jerry Jones was at one point. Because my whole life I've seen Jerry Jones' ass get kicked by players in negotiation. Zeke crushed, like that's one of the and Dak took him. Dak destroyed Jerry. I think we forget because it was we were coming off of COVID. We were all kind of hidden. But Dak had threatened to leave. He'd wiped the Cowboys off his social media. Dak took Jerry to the wire and won. So I've really never seen this business mogul that Jerry is because I've only seen him get wiped. Jalen Smith wiped him, and Jalen Smith's not in the league anymore. So in that case, I think we're going to sign. I think we will sign Dak. But if you had told me, I guess 6 months ago that that would be your opinion, I would say you're crazy. But right now, it seems like that's where everything's going. It seems like that's where Jerry's pushing this conversation.
So who would you rather lose? Parsons, CD Lamb, or Dak?
I think, Dak.
Or Diggs, even Diggs.
Well, we signed. We did sign Diggs
Yeah,
last, but we still have to sign. Bland's going to be coming up. Tyler Smith, who played like the best left guard in football last year, is going to be coming up. There was a quote yesterday from an executive in the league, and I do agree with this about. Not that I want to lose him, but they said Micah Parsons is one of the greatest players ever when the Cowboys are winning, and he is below average when they're losing. I don't value Micah as high as I value Dak. I believe Dak is the reason we've been successful for 8 years. I think the Dak Prescott era has been a huge media narrative lie that because of Dak we haven't gone places.
I agree.
And I think every year you can point, and I know it's an excuse-making thing that we do, but every year you can point to like 2016, like it was his first year, his rookie year. Aaron Rodgers destroyed us. Aaron Rodgers always destroyed us. You can go to 2017 was his only bad year in my opinion. Like he was really bad. Zeke got suspended. Dez sucked. Jason Witten was like 50 years old and couldn't run. Scott Linehan started. His offense became stale. 2018, he gets right back up. We go to the playoffs. 2019, he has a great year. 2020, he gets hurt. 2020, he's amazing. 2021, he's amazing. 2022, he throws the interceptions. It's a big year, and it's a big deal until Josh Allen does it next year, and then we stop talking about the interceptions. And then 2023, Dak has an MVP year. I've seen Dak carry this team way too many times for me to say he hasn't gotten it done because, and by that same context is everything. By that same judgment, I can look at Josh Allen and say,
Right. And
Lamar Jackson hasn't done anything.
I'll say the same.
That's what
I'll say the same thing
I'm
about two quarterbacks.
I agree.
To be the best, you got to beat the best. And those two guys plus Dak, when they get to the games against the good teams, they always bow down.
But I think that's more common.
And they always like to blame everybody else. Like the Bills will blame everybody else other than Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson will never be blamed for anything. No. It's always somebody else's fault. He was a horrible quarterback this year in the playoffs, and he's done it 2 or 3 times, but he won't take the hit. But to get to that next level, it's always you got to be the best. You got to beat the best. And Aaron Rodgers, and now you got Purdy in there who's young, and he keeps beating teams. You have to get to that certain level. But you're exactly right.
But I think we underestimate how rare it is to be consistently 12-5.
Right.
Like I understand that the goal is to win it all, but one team does. And so I think to judge the other 31 teams based on not being the 32nd team that wins it all is like, you can't say, Dak, you're done because you didn't do it and only one quarterback did this year. Like this team, as down on him as I am right now, as horrible as the Jones run this year, as bad as free agency has been, it is way too, like I've had this fight with people. It's way too talented to go look at next year and go, let's rebuild, because you're not going to be bad. And like we were just talking about the Vikings win total without a quarterback. Well, 6.5 is way too low. They're talented. With a talented roster like this, you're not going to get a top 3-4 pick to get a quarterback. And next year's draft class for quarterbacks, I don't like it all. Yeah. It's Shedeur Sanders and take your pick after that.
But my problem is Jerry Jones isn't doing enough
to
build around Dak Prescott
I agree.
to win. So if you're not going to build around him and spend the money now, why spend it on him?
No.
I would rather go down, build up again. If that's what you're going to do, start with another quarterback, because if he was serious about winning and you got Dak, who was a very good quarterback, this offseason you would have spent money.
This was the offseason.
You would have got exactly what you needed and then drafted exactly what you
It felt like this was a cheap, like the two guys, if we made 2 signings this offseason, only these 2 signings I would have considered the best offseason of my life, which is not saying much. We've not done anything since I've been alive. If we got Derrick Henry for that cheap contract, 2 years, I don't care. I know he's getting older. And we got Patrick Queen, who signed for a lot less than I thought he was going to sign for. I wouldn't have cared. But now you're going into the draft. You need a tackle. You need a running back. You're not going to do that until the 2nd, 3rd round. You need a receiver. You need linebacker help. You have massive defensive tackle problems.
And that's why you're always going to be around 10, 11, 12 wins.
You're just going to win. That's fine. Like we talked about, that's fine for Jerry. Jerry, that's all he wants. So I think Jerry would much rather, and I know he always wants to look tough and he doesn't want to pay Dak, and he doesn't like Dak as much as he loved Romo and all the other guys because Dak has never warmed up to Jerry. I think Jerry understands that at 12-5, obviously we're going to be talking about either way, but at 12-5, it is a lot better for his business if we have the star quarterback, which people don't want to call him it, but he is.
Yes.
If he didn't have a star in his helmet, we'd all know he's a top 7
Oh, he's
quarterback.
a top quarterback. No doubt.
And maybe I'm contradicting myself because the Trey Lance experiment would get a lot of eyes on the team, and I love Trey Lance. I loved him at North Dakota State. But I don't think you can let Dak go. And I've always been the guy I hate when we talk about we can't make this guy the top paid quarterback. Well, don't worry, because in a year he will be the 5th paid quarterback.
But that's my whole problem with the system is just because somebody got this much money, why should a guy who's done nothing get more than them? And that's the problem in sports right now is you're getting paid for what somebody else is doing, not for what you've done. If it was on the level, if he got $40 million a year, I'd say
40 would be a bargain.
Yeah, you know, Daniel Jones got $20 million a year, I'd say, wow, Daniel Jones, he's good for $20 million.
Yeah.
But for $44 million, he's not worth it, you know, and that's the problem. These guys aren't worth what they're getting in the market now, and that's what the problem is.
Well, if you thought Dak was going to take a friendly deal, first of all, I'll say something about Dak after, which is a little negative, but Kirk Cousins coming off a Achilles and being 35 just got $40 million. That is going to skyrocket Dak's deal because you have to at least add 20 for a MVP candidate who's, I know, not young, but 30, I know he had an injury issue, but he's not coming off like.
Yeah, but I don't consider Dak much better than Kirk Cousins. No, I think Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback. He hasn't been on the best of teams. He hasn't been on the best of teams either.
No,
I don't think Minnesota, when he was playing there, they had no defense. They were all offense. It wasn't his fault they were losing 35-31 every game. I
would put Kirk more towards the 8-11. I'd put Dak more towards the 8-5.
So, I mean, he's not worth 20 more million.
No, but market-wise, that's going to give him more.
Yes, exactly.
Being younger, coming off an MVP candidate, and healthy. But the one stain though on Dak, I love Dak. The one thing I love about Dak, and it's the most important thing when you're looking at brand-wise for the Cowboys, is he's a leader. He steps up to the podium. He says the right thing. He said the wrong thing once after the Niners game. We ran out of time and everyone lost their mind. That's because of how much of a leader and how responsible he's been.
I got no problem the way he is.
But the one stain on his football character is that he refuses to take any type of pay cut to make this team better.
That's right.
And that really makes me mad because when you look at someone like Brady who took pay cuts.
And Mahomes,
they take pay cuts because they know they are the best.
And I heard Josh Allen is too.
But those guys know that they're the best.
And this is the problem in football now, and it happened with the Bears, is a reason they had to get rid of Justin Fields is because his contract is coming up. Is it worth paying him $30-40 million a year to get the same results, or get rid of him for nothing and then have a good quarterback for 4 years at a great salary
and with the generational?
Exactly. Yes.
That was an easy one.
Unfortunately, now it's all business.
Yeah.
And that's what it's come to with quarterbacks. They make too much money and they put the pressure on the GMs and the owners, and it kind of puts the team in a bad situation.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's going to be an eventful offseason somehow because we always have to make it somehow interesting because we won't sign anyone or make any big trades. So we will make it interesting with Dak drama yet again. It feels like 2021 all over again, but we're going to shift to baseball, and we're not going to get to the fun stuff yet because there was a bombshell that dropped about a couple days ago concerning Shohei Ohtani and some gambling problems, which we don't know whose fault it is, but we're going to get into that. So what do you think about that?
Well, I heard today on TV he said that his dog ate his homework. So now I don't know what he was talking about. Apparently he had homework to do, but the dog ate it, so he didn't get it. But that's what his interpreter said. Sorry, he didn't.
That was for you, John Bronco.
His interpreter said it. Sorry about that. But, I mean, this brings a light, because now I asked my friends, I said, if you spent $4.5 million of my money, I'm going to have to check my bank account because you guys know my bank cards here. But I don't believe a word that he's saying. I think he's involved in some way. If he maybe wasn't betting on sports, he knew what was going on. His name is on where the bookie is, so it's not his interpreters. So you look just as guilty because his interpreter is using his name to get with this bookie to have that much of. I mean, bookies don't get $4.5 million worth of. So I think he's guilty. I think they're Rob Manfred. They're gonna. Baseball is the cheesiest.
Yeah,
They'll just brush it under the carpet, just like McGuire and Sosa did for the longest time. Baseball's not the most popular sport to watch. There's too many games. It's in the summer. People, it's not like football and college sports where it's Saturday in the fall and everybody's watching it. There's so many games where there's nobody at the game. They need fans. He's the biggest name right now out there. They will not do anything to him, and it's a crime because Pete Rose is one of my favorite all-time players. And what they've done to him for how many years, he was the best hitter in baseball. It had nothing to do with how he was on the field. He had a problem. He's dealt with it. There's people in the NFL and the Hall of Fame that either murdered or had something to do with a murder, and they're in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose didn't kill anybody. Pete Rose had a problem. He did something. He paid the price for it. That's all the guy wants to do is be in the Hall of Fame. There's nothing stopping him. He's got the most hits. One of the best players ever of all time, hustled. He got the game going. And I think Ohtani is going to get, you know what? They might give him like a 10-game suspension. They'll give him a slap on the wrist. It's April. Do you really want to play baseball? They'll make it look like they're tough on him. Do you really want to go to Chicago and play in the winter, spring? So they'll give him a little bit of a fine, if anything. But I got a bad vibe that they're just going to brush it under the thing. But I think there's more to it, and I don't think we're ever going to hear the exact truth.
So we have these same thoughts, but we have different, feelings toward those thoughts. I believe that he probably had something to do with it. Even if it wasn't him, I know he definitely knew about it. There's no way $4.5 million went missing, and he was like, "What? I didn't know about this." So he absolutely knew, and they're letting his interpreter take the fall, which. The
interpreter and the bookie are going to take the fall.
No, they're going to take the fall. But where me and you change is I hope they never find out. And for this reason, I love baseball. Baseball, for some reason, as much as I love football, as much as I love
That's your father.
Baseball is the best. I don't know. It's a long season. It's every day. It's Fenway Park or something awesome about baseball. And baseball is like completely dying. And Shohei Ohtani is the one little lifeline they kind of have left, because if you look at all the great players they have right now, there's great players in the league. None of them, like Mike Trout, is always hurt on a terrible team and boring. He's a boring person. Mookie Betts, he's amazing, and he's not.
Why did he want to play beside Mookie Betts then? Come on.
Maybe had something to do with the last name. Maybe he was attracted. I saw a couple of photos of them.
I saw it on Facebook. It had his Betts beside him. It was hilarious.
But I just think Ohtani. I get it because Pete Rose has been, but if you think that I think what's happened to Pete Rose is one of the worst situations in sports. But me believing that is also me saying I don't think Ohtani should be, punished. If he's betting on his own sport, on him, I completely get it. But if he's just kind of has an addiction, I can't really.
Any athlete, if they're betting on other sports, I got no problem with it. It's their money. They earned it. They got to work out and train for 12 months a year.
You guys forgot that this segment is sponsored by FanDuel. Sorry.
I have no issue with them betting. I have no issue betting on. I know you can't let this happen, but I have no issue on them betting on other games in their sport as long as it's not them.
I might have a problem.
I understand the problem business wise, and I know they've said in the NFL you cannot put in jeopardy the integrity of the sport, even if there's nothing going on. I get that, but me personally, like he should be punished if he's betting on his own sport. But I'm not going to look at Ohtani and say like the things we've said about other situations.
He's down $4.5 million. He must have been betting on the Angels. I mean, they're horrible.
He was definitely betting. If he was confident in his own team, then that's why he might be under.
How bad can that guy? If you're down that much money, you're not betting.
He's betting a lot.
You're betting a lot of money, and you're not winning a lot. So to be down that much money, and this guy not knowing there's $4.5 million.
Oh yeah, he definitely knew. He definitely knew, but he will not get punished because if you look at every other sport besides the NHL, and it's not because of the product they're putting out, it's because they have no clue how to brand their sport. The NBA, even though it's gone down in years, is destroying the MLB every year. Football is destroying all three of them combined, the NHL NBA and MLB. The MLB's only lifeline to relevancy is Shohei Ohtani. It's not the other great players. They can't market these guys.
But you know why? Because there's so many teams that are terrible. There's about 6 teams that don't deserve to be in the league. It's so watered down that seriously, how many people can name more than 6 or 7 players on each team? I mean, you look at the lineup and you're holy man.
The A's, I don't know if I can do the A's.
No, but even the White Sox, they're tanking. I mean, there's so many bad teams, and I'll talk about this later. But there's baseball. There's really, really good teams, and there's really, really bad teams, and there's not much in the middle. But again, this guy, baseball has always been shady. They'll wipe it under the rug. They'll come up with a new story every week. It'll be a different story. Somebody will come in and you're going to get your wish because they're not going to hear the truth. You'll never find out exactly what happened because people are going to take the fall for him.
Well, I was listening to Colin Cowherd talk about him, and as bad as I think Colin Cowherd's takes are, I think Colin Cowherd himself is a pretty smart guy. Like, just when he talks about things.
Oh, he's very smart.
But he'll predict things, and like he predicted the Commanders to win our division this year. Like, he's not very good with the sports takes, but he said some smart things, and he said it. I hope Shohei was robbed because the sport deserves a sport that's been dying deserves this excitement. Like that excitement we had 2 years ago when he was the MVP. It was like he was throwing 100 miles per hour and hitting 2 home runs a night. It was so much fun, and he was on a team that is in the basement in LA when they had the Dodgers and they had the Angels. I want to see him. I know a lot of people hated that he went to the Dodgers. I loved it for baseball. He's in the best team. Obviously, the payroll is a different issue, but he's in the spotlight. He's in Dodger blue. He's in Dodger Stadium. It's a good thing for the sport, and I think if he goes down, the MLB is going down too because there's nothing else.
And again, each sport has a season to play, and the problem with baseball is it's too long because when they start, you got hockey playoff, NBA basketball playoffs playing. The summer, they're the only game in town, other than the CFL. Sorry, but they're the only game.
They're the only game in town.
But then you start September, you got college football, you got NFL football. And then guess what? September, October, hockey starts, basketball.
They're playing both sides.
They're playing both sides. It's too long a season. They're playing in March now. They start tomorrow. Like, cut the season down.
I don't think they ever will, though.
They won't because there's too much money to lose. But that's their whole problem is they overlap in too many sports. And they're overlapping when sports are in their playoffs. And they're never going to compete with college football, NFL football in September. They're always going to lose there. And if you look around the stadiums, they're half empty in September anyway, April and September.
Well, a lot of them, like if you watch A's games this year, there was never a moment where they were almost semi-full. Like they were empty all year.
They're done.
The only time they were full was when they had that protest game.
But
they filled the stands.
If you turn any game on, you can go to Milwaukee, Detroit, you can go to Pittsburgh, anybody. Yeah. You turn these games on in April, I don't care if they're playing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and the sun's out or at 7 o'clock at night when it's colder. There's nobody there. People don't want to go and sit and freeze. The best thing they did was speed up the game so it's better for people to go. That was probably the best move that baseball has done in years. It sped the game up so people aren't wasting a whole day. You know, they got the games down under 3 hours, 2:45. Yeah. I think that was a great move and one of about the only moves that they made in a long time.
But I feel like before we move on, that is the problem is you talk about like we were talking about the NFL's new rule changes, and they're not great, but the NFL every year is willing to change and adapt and evolve. The MLB is not.
Did you guys hear the new rule change?
Yes.
For the kickoff?
That's great. And guess what?
You guys like that? Sorry, I know it's not.
That's great. And guess what? The NFL swallowed their pride. Guess where they got it from?
USFL.
The USFL. They looked at a lower league and said, hey, that's a great idea.
I think it's great.
But they weren't too high on themselves and say, we don't want to do that. We're too good. They adapted, just like Evan just said.
You have to adapt. You have to change.
You have to change.
And the MLB refuses to. Rob Manfred is the worst commissioner of sports. The MLB is catering to the 70-year-old crowd that watched it, when the Yankees were dominating. And you have to evolve. And, and we talk about evolving like it's a bad thing, but, attention spans are shorter. Yeah. I loved nothing more than sitting down at 1 and finishing a game at 5. That was just me. But the overall population is not going to sit there and watch a game for 5 hours. We watched it.
We do.
One of the greatest games I've ever watched. Yankees Red Sox. We watched on the deck. It went for 5 hours.
5 hours.
We walked off. I think
it was diverse.
No, yeah, it was. No, that was a different game. That's another one that went long. I think it was Mitch Moreland or Sandy Leone who walked off. I still remember that because it was such a good game. I just watched the 2004 Red Sox comeback documentary. They were all long games, but not everyone wants to do that.
And another good rule they made, and I know you don't like it, and I don't think David likes it as well, but I love putting the guy on second in extra innings. It speeds the game up.
No, I guess
there's nothing worse than a team playing an 18-inning game because it's harder to score. You use 7 pitchers, and then you play tomorrow.
That's
the shortstop.
That's the best part.
That's the best
There's
part.
not enough guys. It's too
Red
long.
Sox-
Get some second baseman coming in.
Red Sox Dodgers Game 5 World Series went to 18
It
innings,
was amazing.
and we lost on a walk-off, and I didn't care because it was one of the greatest
And what's his
games.
name?
Then they cried.
Nathan Eovaldi went in
Eovaldi
7
pitched
innings.
off.
And the coaches cry because I got nobody to pitch tomorrow because they use 9 guys.
Yeah, we didn't-
But that's the best part to me. That's the best part. It's like now we have to figure this out. Like they were talking about it in the Red Sox documentary that Keith Folk, which I don't know, pitched 2 innings every night, and he was a closer. His arm was gone, but he pitched every single night. He pitched 3 innings. Our bullpen was gone because these games went 5 or 6 hours. That was got to be one of the coolest parts.
And you know what they should do, and they'll never do it, and this bothers the hell out of me, is no position player should ever pitch, because if you're down 8 runs
just end the game
in the 8th inning, the game's over.
yeah.
That has nothing to do with a gambling of a total,
Yeah.
of a spread.
Game's on.
The game's over. You don't need to put in the shortstop and throw 80 miles an hour.
It's
not
fun when it
cute.
happens,
It's boring. When teams are up 18-5 and get the game over with. Fans, you're stupid as a fan. You're stupid as a fan to stay at a game.
Just put on your reverse.
There have been
And there's a lot of games
deficits overcoming tonight, though.
Well,
Yeah, like 2 of them.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the last one. So this is the fun one. Which teams are the ones to watch heading into the MLB season starting up tomorrow?
Well, this is another problem that baseball has more so than any other sport, is you can tell who 10 out of the 12 teams minimum, you'll know who's in the playoffs every year. They need to get a hard salary cap, something where you can't go over and pay a luxury tax because some owners don't care. There should be a range where you have to pay so much and you can't go over to make it a fair league, because right now it's a terrible league. There's 8 really, really good teams, and there's 8 really, really bad teams where you're stupid if you're a White Sox fan or Oakland A's fan to have season tickets. I mean, if anybody's betting the Pirates, the Tigers to win their division or to win 90 games, you're just throwing your money away. I think they need a hard cap. And again, this is an Ohtani rule, but it's happened throughout baseball. Listen, when you're paying somebody, you're paying him for the years he's playing. You're not paying him when he's retired at 55 or 60 years old. None of this hiding money. The problem is these GMs and these owners, they all find loops, in the system where they can say, you know what, we'll pay him $2 million this year to keep our payroll low. But then when he's 60, we'll give him $50 million a year so that way he can live good. No, they got to stop that, because it's not fair to the teams. It's not fair to all these teams like the White Sox and the A's. But again, they pay $181 million this year, the Dodgers. And you said they just signed Will Smith, so it's even higher. Where if they paid Ohtani what they're supposed to, they'd be $240 million a year. How does that make sense? Them, the Yankees, the Mets are the only dummies who never make the playoffs, but they spend the most.
Yeah.
Baltimore right now have a $43 million salary cap. And this is because they're all great. They're all young. In 4 or 5 years, half those guys won't be in Baltimore because that Baltimore owner is not going to pay a lot of guys.
Well, luckily he's out. He sold the team
He
today,
sold the team.
and so that'll help. But
But again, man, I know people that have been at that Baltimore's park. It's not in the best of area.
Yeah. No.
If they want to build a new stadium and go somewhere else and make it a nice part of town, maybe they will. But to me, baseball is the most phoniest. I mean, you know every year who's going to make the playoffs. You know who's decent teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I
You got
don't know how you can be a fan of some of the other teams. I mean, you got to be a diehard to be Pittsburgh or whatever. But I think until they get a cap, this sport will never. Again, this is another problem with the sport. Are you going to watch Houston and Oakland on TV?
No.
And again, exactly. Who's going to sit and watch those teams on TV?
No.
And the revenue that these owners, if they all got the same amount of revenue and they all had to pay a certain amount, which they do in some sports, I mean, I don't blame. If I'm the Colorado Rocky owner, why would you pay money in that division? Why would you go sign one player for $28 million so you can win 60 games. Well,
Yeah.
the Dodgers are going to win 100. You know,
Plus, you're not filling the stadium.
yeah, exactly.
So you don't have the money.
You know, and even the Padres this year, they're going to go down. They lost.
Yeah,
They lost a few guys. You know, they spent
Soto.
for a year. It didn't work.
No.
I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, the MLB is my favorite season, but the most boring season because you know who's going to win every year. That's why, like, even though they're in my division, the one team I really like is the Orioles because they're new. I know they made the playoffs last year, but they're kind of just up and coming. I think they could actually win it all this year. I think I'm rooting for them to win it all. Obviously, I don't think the Red Sox are going to win it all. But I think the cap's been like a huge problem forever because the A's are never going to get to the Dodgers level because it's impossible for them to get to that level. The Dodgers have paid Mookie Betts a fortune. They've paid now Will Smith. They've paid Ohtani, and I know they've moved money, but that doesn't happen in any sport. Kershaw, like
You look at
in any sport, that does not happen. Like in football, after 3 years of having a core, a couple guys got to go. Like I feel like the Niners just got started, and now we're talking about Ayuk having to be traded because he wants so much money. Maybe Deebo Samuel. It's like that. But in baseball, you can keep this core forever because it doesn't matter.
Pretty easy to be a general manager in baseball.
Very easy. It doesn't.
Other
The
sports,
money.
you got to crunch the numbers.
The money doesn't matter, and the only team that doesn't take advantage of the money they have is the Red Sox because their owners are cheap to begin with. But every other, I cringe at the Yankee fans who act like their owner doesn't want to win. Like maybe you haven't, but you just went out and got Juan Soto. You signed Judge to a massive contract. You went a couple years ago just because it hasn't worked out. You got Stanton. You got Garrett Cole. It's so easy to build a team if you have the money in the MLB. And, you know, people want to go to the same three teams or two now. They used to be the Red Sox. We used to get big. But it's the Yankees and Dodgers. It's always those two. And the Giants always get one player.
You know what? The one thing I like about baseball, and I agree with what they did, was years ago, the Houston Astros, they tanked for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
They got draft picks. They got better. Now they're a dynasty.
Yeah.
Baltimore did the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, 2 or 3 years ago, they were losing 100
Terrible.
games a year. They
Terrible.
drafted great. All their guys
All
are
their guys
young.
are good.
So they actually went down to the basement.
Yeah.
They drafted great, and now they worked their way up, and now they can spend money and go get guys to help the team. But Houston's going to be great for years.
Yeah,
Baltimore,
Houston.
if they keep their guys, they're going to be good for the next 5-10 years.
Baltimore's going to be good for a long time, and they finally, because we don't see Baltimore make moves. They went and got Corbin Burns because they know their pitching,
best
their rotation
offseason
wasn't
pick.
good. It was fantastic. And if you look around the infield, you got Gunnar Henderson, you got Adley Rutschman, you got so many good players. Jackson Holliday is going to come. Colton Cowser in center field. It's such a
Cedric
good
Mullins.
team. Cedric Mullins is still there. I don't know. They're fun to watch. Obviously, I won't root for them when we play them, but I always turn on Oriole games just because I love watching the team play. They got so many good players, and now with the new owner, I think they keep a lot of these guys. And between Henderson and Holiday, you can lose one of them. They both play third and short. You can lose one of them and keep. I don't know. I think they're going to be good. They're my World Series pick once we get to that.
Oh,
They're one of them. But I don't know if they'll win it. But I do think they'll get there.
and I'll say this: Juan Soto is a one and done in New York.
Oh yeah, he's
He's
be
a
back.
one and done. They're not going to keep.
He's
him.
going to get his money.
He's
gonna get paid.
going to get his year in New York, and that's what somebody else can throw him money. And
He's
he
gonna
did
get
nothing for the Padres.
No, he wasn't great last year,
He
but he'll be
didn't
great
know.
this year. You watch.
He did. Well, I could hit home run that.
Yeah, go to the short deck,
Yeah.
Yankee Stadium. I think I
Big
get one out
match.
there. All right, so let's hear some World Series predictions and some under the radar teams you got going in the year.
Well, as usual, the baseball playoffs will be Dodgers, Braves, Phillies are great in the
Yeah.
National League,
Yeah.
and they always play each other well. And you know what? I don't care if Ohtani's there or not. I do not think they're better than either the Phillies or the Braves. I think all around pitching and everything else, Dodgers always get injuries to their pitching. They've had a million injuries to their pitching. The Braves are they're
That's
stacked.
the best team. In
The Phillies have stacked it up now. They have the pitching to compete. I think they're better than the Dodgers. The Braves lost to the Phillies last year. I think they come out and get to the World Series. The American League, I'm like you. I think Baltimore, I think they'll go and make a trade at the deadline. I think they'll go get another pitcher. And I think with the young guys they have, they're going to be there. Houston is a dynasty.
Houston, yeah, you can't.
Houston is a dynasty. Texas are just
That division is pretty good.
Texas are just as good. I can't see any of them. And to me, I would love to see Baltimore beat Houston. I would like to see Baltimore and Atlanta, but I think this is Atlanta's year to win. I think They've lost the last couple. I think it's going to make them stronger as long as they avoid the injuries.
Yeah,
I think they're good. The team I would like to see in the National League come up, they have no pitching, but they have a great young hitting team, the Cincinnati Reds. They're finally getting their fans back. They have a small park. If they can get half decent pitching. Yeah. And the team that I think is going to win the division and cause trouble in the playoffs is the Cubs.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah, they got the pitching now.
Yeah,
I think they're one of the better hitting teams.
Yeah.
I think they can challenge. I think they win that division, which isn't that good.
No, it's
in the American League, the team, and you said the same, is they got the best pitching is the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah.
I take them over the Jays just because of the pitching. They got Castillo, George Kirby.
We play them the first series of the year.
Yeah, I mean, but if Seattle ever gets anybody to help Rodriguez out,
that's the thing.
I think if they can ever score 4 or 5 runs a game with the pitching that they have, they will be there. If the Jays put it all together, I would say they could make the playoffs. But I got a feeling they start slow, say goodbye to the coach because I don't think they really like him anyway, and they'll want a spark. I think last year the hitting let the Jays down, and the pitching for some reason was better.
Yeah, the Gosman was great.
But I could see a Baltimore, and I think the playoffs are always good because you have really good teams.
Really good.
And the regular season is bad because there's always some bad games every night. You know, you got good teams playing bad teams. And, you know, for these good teams, how do you get up playing Oakland 3 games in a row? It's impossable for these players. Hey, we got Oakland.
Yeah.
You know, they're human. They're not going to get up for those games. They get up for the better games. And I think, you know, the baseball playoffs are always one of the best because you have the best teams in there. Yeah, it's such a long season. You're not going to see Oakland or the White Sox sneak in. You know, you're not going to see the bad team sneak in. Yeah, I'm going with
the ratings in Oakland are going to go way down this week.
I think so. So the teams, I'm pretty similar with you. I think the World Series. Do you see the Braves? Because I have Braves over
beat Ball.
That's exactly what I have.
No,
I have Braves Orioles.
Listen,
show us
if you want.
It's so easy.
I could have said the White Sox. You know,
it's either Braves or
against
Braves
Pittsburgh, but then we'd have all these callers calling it up. Does this guy really know anything? But that's the problem with baseball. Everybody's going to have the same pick. Yeah.
It was like in the NBA when we had going in like from like 2015 to 2018. It was like, who do you have going to the final? Like Cavs and Warriors probably. And we knew it was going to the finals, so we don't know exactly who's going this year. But I would say it's either going to be Braves Orioles or Braves Astros, and I've started to like the Astros because I'm kind of like, can we kind of forget about they were going to win anyways when they cheated?
They're talking about Ohtani now. The Astros, they want the same thing done to them.
I would. I'd be kind of like done with it if I was the Astros and Astro fans. Like, okay, we were that good anyways. I believe everyone's cheating in the MLB. The Yankees got caught cheating. We got caught cheating.
If you're not feeling signs,
you're doing that. I know it sucks. I know it sucks. We glorify Bill Belichick. We glorify him, and he's
not cheating. The plays in the NFL. I'm sorry. There's a reason why they do that because they don't have people stealing it.
And Skip Bayless always says, and I don't agree with everything he says, but if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And it's
what did your father used to say? Your father used to say, I don't care if they know my signal. We have to execute.
It's a cheating game.
It doesn't mean steal every time. You know, he might be picking his nose. Who knows?
It's a cheating game. It sucks, but it's a cheating game. And I'm completely fine with you trying to get any edge you can. Now, they went further than I would like. They were wearing buzzers. That sucked. I still believe they would have won anyways. And then they won a couple years later. I would be okay with seeing the Astros in the finals. I really want to see the Orioles young team in the finals. And I think, like you said, I think the Braves are the best team in the league.
Homegrown.
Yeah, but they're like their rotation is the best rotation in the league. And I think their lineup is by far the best. Couple under the radar teams I have. I know I mentioned it at dinner and you kind of got shocked. Just don't be shocked if the Red Sox. Don't be shocked if they have a good year, not a playoff year. That I was looking at the lineup again today. I thought I was nuts.
The only good year they're going to have is if the blimps over the stadium.
Well, if you look at the lineup, the offense is there. 2021, we came into 2021 like, oh man, we're going to suck, and then people shocked you in the pitching rotation. I think this offense could shock a lot of people this year, and we just went 19-12 in spring training. I know that doesn't mean much, but the young guys showed really good potential. don't be surprised that the Tigers are a lot better than they were.
They're going to be good. They're good.
Not a playoff team, I don't think at all.
They're 500.
They're going to be a
Same
lot
with
better.
Kansas City might get a little
Kansas
better.
City's going to get a little better. They made a lot of moves, and there wasn't like star player moves. It was mid-tier guys, but they made a lot of moves. But not biased, my actual under the radar, and they're not that under the radar. The Mariners have great pitching, and in NL, I think it's really hard. But I like the Giants. They're just in a tough division. I love the Snell pickup. I think the Giants had a good offseason.
Giants know how to play the Dodgers. Too.
Yeah.
They always give the Dodgers fits. Doesn't matter what the records are.
That rivalry always ends. It's like the Commanders and the Cowboys. It doesn't matter if one team's really so. I could see the Giants surprise people. I could see the Red Sox surprise people. That's a lot. I think that's because I was watching a lot of documentaries and videos on the Red Sox today. So that could go down tomorrow night after we see Luis Castillo at 10-10.
I think the Garrett Cole injury is
That's going to be significant.
It's going to cost the Yankees a playoff
Really
spot because
significant.
they don't have as much pitching. I'm not sold on Carlos Rodon.
No, we had a terrible year,
and Nelson Cortez.
and they got Stroman,
Stroman,
and he's
Stroman's
very on
probably
and
not
off.
bad. You know what? You're going to get. They
he
strike
a
out a
number one?
ton. They strike out a ton.
That's true.
They're going to hit home runs, but half the time they hit solo shots when they're up 6-1. Judge will hit a solo shot, they're up 6-1, now it's 7-1. Stanton only hits them when they're up 10. He's the true definition of garbage
Batting
time.
217.
Yeah, he'll never get a big home run when you need him. You know, he'll get 300 strikeouts.
Yeah.
He's got his money, but I think Garrett Cole's injury is going to knock the Yankees down a notch to miss the playoffs.
I agree. So not a very interesting prediction because we both have these same predictions: Braves and Orioles. I have the Braves beating the Orioles. You said you have the Braves beating the Orioles?
I hope it's their year. I think you know, Philadelphia always give the Braves trouble, especially in the play. I mean, that's one of the best rivalries in baseball. You know, and the sad thing is with baseball, one team's going to make the big trade before the deadline that's going to put them over the hump.
Yeah.
Who it's going to be, you know, maybe the Dodgers go and get a sniper pitcher. Who knows? You know, that's going to be the difference between who wins. I don't think teams like the Braves need to go do anything. And the Orioles, maybe if they get that one
go get a pitcher.
I mean, I could see them just going all out this year to get over the hump.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, so we have the same predictions. So at the end of the year, hopefully we're both right. Enjoy opening day tomorrow. I know I will. I got to wait all day to see my team play, but enjoy the full day.
And remember, it's like Naughty by Nature says, even a broken clock is right at least twice a day.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. This has been Trash Talking.
I'm Reg.
I'm E. We'll see you later.